what's up, everybody? What's going on? So, I want to talk about this whole dilemma with DC and Superman and what's going on because we just saw the new Supergirl trailer and a lot of people have different opinions about this, right? Like some people for the most part, some people like it, but for the most part, the majority of people that I've seen who have watched the Supergirl trailer, they are not too sold on what they're seeing so far, right? A lot of people, you know, flat out just don't like the new Supergirl. Um Now this is James Gunn, right? This is James Gunn design. He's behind this whole, you know, Supergirl and the new Superman movie that recently came out. You'll see a lot of similarities from the Supergirl trailer. If you look at Supergirl, obviously James Gunn has taken a lot of the inspiration that he did with Guardians of the Galaxy and he's bringing it over to Supergirl. And it's crazy because a lot of people are, they're pointing that out. They're like, oh, Marvel, DC is trying to copy Marvel, when in reality, it's not, DC that's trying to copy Marvel. This is James Gunn. James Gunn was behind Guardians of the Galaxy for Marvel, and now he's behind the new Superman and Supergirl movie. So it's really him that's like kind of copy and pasting this whole idea and bringing it over to the DC universe. So I just want to get into a few things. I want to start off by saying thank you for joining and watching this. If you like this, please, if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. But let's get into this, right? So let's start off with Superman from the Zack Snyder, and then we're gonna go into James Gunn, and we're gonna see like the differences and what exactly went wrong here, and we're gonna kind of like try to compare the two because if you ask me personally, I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a lot, like we all know that the Zack Snyder universe, the Snyderverse, quote unquote, had a lot of issues, right? A lot of people wasn't happy about his the pigmentation of Superman. They felt like Superman wasn't really supposed to be this kind of like dark tone. You got to understand that Schneider is coming from, movies like Watchmen, and he's coming from, those type of like dark heroes. He has a more ominous tone when it comes to his heroes and how he sees them. He sees his heroes to be, you know, they're not too perfect. They're not like, he doesn't like heroes to be like these perfect heroes. He wants them to have like this kind of like dark, side to them, which a lot of people didn't like because Superman is all about, inspiring hope. He's bright. He's just everybody's, hero. You know what I'm saying? He's the golden boy of superheroes, right? So Snyder didn't, he took a completely different turn with Superman, right? James Gunn is now bringing his ideas into this, and he's more of a colorful, he's bringing more of a different tone to Superman that I feel like more people do enjoy. Now, here's the issue. Is it Superman as the actor that's the problem? Is it the director that's the problem? What is the problem here as to why I feel like they still kind of haven't gotten Superman right? Because even though James Gunn is doing Superman differently and a little bit more comic accurate, there still feels like there's still something missing. It feels like there's still something beneath the surface that we can't quite grasp yet, and we don't understand what it is. But there's something there that's just not working out, right? So I came across this article. That's basically, it's an older article, but I came across it. I was reading it, and it basically expresses, a few ideas as to what was going on with Zack Snyder. So let's see what it says here. So it says the cancellation of Man of Steel. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start it off here. All right. Oh no. All right. This is where it starts off. So the cancellation of Man of Steel 2 was controversial among the DC fan base. Henry Cavill starred as the new Superman for many years, but some fans took issue with the film he was in. Numerous moviegoers have expressed their disapproval of the new DC Studios head James Gunn getting rid of the previous Superman, making the past decade of film essentially irrelevant. So James Gunn getting into the whole, picture here with, coming into the fray and bringing his ideas with Superman now, he basically wiped out all the other Superman movies, right? So Justice League, all that stuff that Zack Snyder was working on, the Justice League, the director's cut, everything that he did, all of that got scrapped. You know, that's no longer a factor here, right? We're starting over from a whole different new universe, right? And this is James Gunn doing it now. So, where am I now? Getting rid of the previous Superman, making the past negative. All right. So, despite Gunn's actions causing this rage, the cancellation of Henry Cavill's departure can ultimately be tied back to Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's divisive Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice made the former DC extended universe something of a toxic property, similarly, I hate saying that word. Similarly, it's what is haphazard production? I don't know. Left even Zack Snyder Superman adrift. Due to this, Henry Cavill time was cut short long before James Gunn got on board. Most due to how mishandled the whole universe was. In the end, Snyder's 2013 Superman reboot sealed the fate of Cavill's Kal-El 9 years ahead of time. So this is basic. Let me remove these ads. So this is basically saying that Zack Snyder, Man of Steel, the movie, was basically like Henry Cavill basically was doomed from the start. The moment he got into the picture, the moment he started with Man of Steel, it was already doomed because of where Zack Snyder was taking the whole universe. So this brings me back to my whole question, because we've got to understand something. Did we enjoy Henry Cavill as Superman, and or did we not enjoy Henry Cavill as Superman? Was it Zack Snyder's direction of where he took the movies, or was it the actor, or was it the whole package? Right? All right. Here's my opinion. My opinion, and I'll just leave these ads. So my opinion, I guess I can't get rid of them, is that I personally thought that Henry Cavill. I didn't enjoy Henry Cavill that much as Superman. I didn't really think Henry Cavill was the best Superman. Reason being is because I just felt like he just didn't give the right amount of emotions to Superman. I felt like the emotions that he was giving was just not, you know, right for Superman. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about Superman, you think about, you know, this powerful guy. He's strong, but he's lighthearted, and I just felt like Henry Cavill was a little bit too. He just like too serious, right? He never. There was no joking. There was no fun in his character. There was no humor. It was a little bit too personal. Like he just felt too flat for me. He didn't have a lot of emotions. He didn't really. It was all every time I saw him, he's always kind of just one motionless guy, right? He didn't really give much life to that character, other than he's this alien from Krypton. He's finding out who he is. He's and then right in that whole Man of Steel movie enters Zod. Like Zod came in, and it was just he immediately just had to become who he was to defeat Zod. Now, a lot of people didn't like the direction that, like I said, Zack Snyder took this movie. So what happens now? So Zack Snyder's version of Superman clashed with previous depictions. More than any other superhero, Superman is associated with hope, optimism, and in some unfortunate cases, a bit of outdated cheesiness, which is what I'm trying to say. The latter issue definitely explains why Snyder made Man of Steel the way he did. His version went against the more Pollyanna depiction of Superman in previous films, the decision that felt necessary for the DCEU. The idea for the new Superman film was birthed by the success of the Dark Knight trilogy. So Snyder, coming off of the Dark Knight trilogy, he went right into the Man of Steel, and he kind of tried to merge that whole universe together. He took the same he basically took the same tone of the Dark Knight and brought it into the Man of Steel, which I kind of felt like it was, for me, I enjoyed the Man of Steel as the way the movie was. Like I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed, Zod was cool. I thought the movie itself was great. I feel like in the Man of Steel, I feel like Henry Cavill kind of messed it up a little bit. And the way, and it's not him, it's just the way they made him act in the movie. I felt like he could have did better. I just felt like his attitude in that movie just didn't fit the premise of the movie. And I felt like, let's say you have this Superman. What's this new Superman's name? The guy who's, let me see, James Gunn. So David Corenswet, right? That's his name. So David Corenswet, who's starring as the new Superman, I felt like if you had taken him and placed him within Zack Snyder's universe, I felt like maybe that would have worked better because his acting and the way he portrays Superman, I just felt like it would have fit a little bit more better in that universe. Whereas I don't think the way they had Henry Cavill portray Superman, I just don't think it worked for a lot of people. I think the movie was great, the idea was great because I'm sorry, but you're taking the what you call it, the whole like universe, right? This was Superman's beginning. It started off with Krypton, you know, it showed how Krypton got destroyed, how it exploded. It showed how Zod became exiled, right? And then, they went to Earth, and then what happened. So I just felt like this was, you know, this was a actor slash direction, but it just let's see, it just didn't fit. Like the success of Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan had conceived the idea of the new Superman. So all right, Christopher Nolan. Actually, wait a minute. Let me just make sure I got this right because I just want to make sure. Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan. Let me see. Wait, Dark Knight was directed by Zack Snyder, right? Or was it Christopher Nolan? Let me just make sure because I don't want to make sure I know what's going on. Okay, so Christopher Nolan directed Dark Knight. Okay, but Zack Snyder took on the idea of the new movie Dark Knight trilogy. So Christopher Nolan had conceived the idea of the new Superman, but didn't want to direct the film. Instead, Zack Snyder was chosen to helm it. So, having been impressed by his use of visual and ability to deconstruct mythology, while this may have been Snyder's strength elsewhere, it was a weakness concerning Superman as he built the so-called Snyderverse. Okay, so Christopher Nolan directed The Dark Knight, and Zack Snyder took on the role of directing the new Superman. But he brought the same ideas that Christopher Nolan pretty much had for Superman, that because Christopher Nolan was originally supposed to direct Superman, right? Because it was birthed by The Dark Knight. So Christopher Nolan wanted to do the new Superman, but Zack Snyder took that idea and basically brought it over to Man of Steel, and basically took those ideas and brought it into the new movie, which didn't really work for a lot of the fan base. Now, again, I don't feel like Henry Cavill fit this movie. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like if you would have switched the actors and had like, you know, the if you had David Corenswet, if you had him in Man of Steel, I felt like it would have worked out better. So, all right. So that's how that went, all right? And it said, what does it say? It says this can all be tied back to the controversy over Zack Snyder's Superman and how he shared the movie universe, blah blah blah. Let me see something. James Gunn came into the idea and basically took this whole idea over. He took the whole movie over. The last thing they made was Aquaman: The Last Kingdom, and that was a decade after they made Man of Steel. And ever since then, they've had like um Henry Cavill. Ever since then, they had him kind of like do some cameos in a bunch of the movies. Like he was, and I know he had the Black Adam cameo. This is basically where you can see that he was gonna have a departure from the whole Superman role. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, what does it say? It says many fans could have easily done Superman better. This will fix a lot of issues, but sadly, it comes with. Well, let me go up a little bit. All right, so David Corenswet will play the new Man of Steel in the upcoming Superman reboot. The intention of this movie is to provide a more classic, wholesome take on Superman compared to the dour DC Extended Universe version. This will fix a lot of issue of the DCEU, but it sadly comes at the expense of Henry Cavill. Many fans felt that the actor, who was a fan of the character, could have easily done the hero justice with better, more traditional material, which is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that I feel like the way they had him act in this movie and portray Superman, it just didn't fit the Man of Steel. You know what I'm saying? I felt like he could have did a better job given the right direction, but sadly that wasn't the case. All right, so now you have Superman, right? Now they have the new Superman movie. So the new Superman movie with David Corenswet is more, I feel like it's more comic accurate, but and then you also got like Lex Luthor, who's, I feel like he's more of a Lex Luthor that we're all familiar with, compared to the Lex Luthor they had in Man of Steel, or Batman versus Superman. Who was it again? I forgot. What's his name? I forgot his name. Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. So Batman versus Superman, Jesse Eisenberg, who was Lex Luthor, and Jesse Eisenberg is he plays in Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Jesse Eisenberg is usually more of a comedic actor. You know what I'm saying? He does like a lot of, more comedic movies, So I just felt like him being a villain as Lex Luthor was just like really off, and a lot of people kind of hated his portrayal of Lex Luthor. So there was a lot wrong in that whole universe of, not just like the direction of where they were taking it, but also the actors and the choices for these characters and who they were picking to play these characters. Jesse Eisenberg for me was a terrible choice for Lex Luthor. I just didn't see him, doing great with that character. Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne in the new Batman, I feel like he did a pretty good job. No issues there. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice was directed by Zack Snyder, so he did that movie, and then basically took it on from there. So I just feel like the new Superman movie, they didn't do an origin story like how Zack Snyder did Man of Steel. You know what I'm saying? They kind of did more like you already know him, you already know who he is, you already know his story, so we're just gonna take it from there. We're gonna have him start off by fighting against Lex, and Lex is trying to take him out, and then we're gonna just bring you into the universe, hoping that you already understand everything that's going on. We don't have to, do the retelling of this. So that was pretty much where they was going with um the new Superman movie starring David Corenswet, and that's what James Gunn did. Now, a lot of like fans, for the most part, fans are happy. I feel like for the most part, fans like this Superman. If you're coming off the back of Zack Snyder and you're coming off from Man of Steel, you're probably, if you were a fan of Man of Steel and you did like that Superman and you did enjoy that movie, chances are you're not gonna like the new Superman movie because it's not as, like Dark Knight and Man of Steel. Even though Dark Knight was directed by Christopher Nolan and Man of Steel was directed by Zack Schneider, Dark Knight and Superman Man of Steel was very similar because of the ideas coming from both directors. It was very similar. It had a very dark tone to it. You know what I'm saying? It was really mature, those movies. The new Superman movie with James Gunn directing it and behind it, I feel like that movie is a lot less serious. I feel like it's more, yeah, like I said, lighthearted, right? But that's what people want from Superman. That's what a lot of people want from Superman. They don't want him to struggle through all these demons and have all these issues, and they want to see more of a Superman that's going to save the animals and save the squirrel from getting crushed by a monster, and like all these things. So it's like that's what they want to see. I don't think Zack Snyder, I don't think Henry Cavill saved one animal. You know what I mean? Like so like things like that. It's the little things. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the Superman movie now, enters Supergirl. And let's see, Supergirl. All right. Wait. Super Supergirl the movie. Okay. So now the Supergirl movie is coming out, right? And let's see, where is it? Let me put James Gunn. Make sure I got this right. Cast. Let's look at the cast. Okay. So Millie Alcott is gonna be playing Kara Zor-El in the new James Gunn version of Supergirl. And you all know Millie Alcott from House of Dragons, right? That's primarily where she's known from the House of Dragons. Now, a lot of people saw the trailer, and for the most part, people aren't sold, fully on the Supergirl trailer. I'm not sure if it's because people aren't really Supergirl fans or if they're just not hip to what she's bringing to this trailer, because within the trailer you'll see, like, all right, so the trailer starts off, she looks like she's home, you got a crypto there. She looks like she's getting drunk at bars. She looks like she's fighting regular thugs, and it's like, you're supposed to be Supergirl, you're not supposed to be like having issues fighting regular thugs. It's a lot of like Guardians of the Galaxy, stuff going on. It looks very similar to that movie. And so it wasn't really the greatest trailer. A lot of people are complaining about it. Now, I feel like the best Supergirl that we ever had, first off, we're having Millie Alcott. We've had Sasha Cale from The Flash, which was directed by someone totally different. And we had this Supergirl who was from the CW. And let me just go to her. Now, Supergirl. All right. So, Melissa Benoist, right? She was Supergirl from the CW, right? And let me put that up here. Supergirl. She was Supergirl from the CW. And I thought she was great. I watched this. When it was out. It was a great series. It was a great show, and I thought she did a great job as Supergirl. She looked the part. She acted the part. She was innocent. She was humble. She was sweet, but she was strong. And I feel like a lot of people loved her as Supergirl. She played a great role. She had the blonde hair, which was a big deal. And this brings me to another issue. Like, my personal favorite Supergirl, aside from Melissa Benoist, was Sasha Cale. And let me go to Sasha Cale. I enjoyed this Supergirl. I thought, let me see, Supergirl. So Sasha Cale as Supergirl, I thought she did a great job. Like, I felt like her as Supergirl, she was really good. I loved the suit. I loved the way she did the acting. The problem was the hair. Like, let's be honest. A lot of people felt like she had that boy cut. You know what I'm saying? It was real tomboyish. People didn't like the way her hair was. But this is her style. And this is the way that the director of The Flash had her, portray this character. They really didn't change who she was. Like, let me see. They didn't change who Sasha Cale was. She came in there looking exactly how she always looked, and they didn't like change her appearance or anything. They just let her run with it, like the Flash movie. The Flash was directed by Andy Muschietti. Muschietti. I hope I said that right. But it was a completely different director. We had Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. Michael Keaton played Bruce Wayne, and replayed his role from being Batman. So this was a completely different director. Sasha Cale was Kara Zor-El in this, but here's why we couldn't have a Sasha Cale be Supergirl and we couldn't have her do a new movie, because in The Flash, right? The Flash goes into a whole nother timeline. So he's in a whole nother timeline. When he runs back to try to save his mom, he enters a whole nother timeline where now instead of Ben Affleck being Batman, now we have Michael Keaton. And then instead of Superman being Superman Clark, instead of Clark being Superman, we have Sasha Cale as Kara Zor-El. So this whole take was in a whole different timeline. And within this timeline, Zod won. Zod achieved his goal of recreating Krypton, and in doing so, he was able to intercept Superman's pod as a baby on his way to Earth and kill him, which was crazy. So now you have Kara, who's the only one left of Krypton. And then it was destined for her to die, and there was nothing Barry could do to save it. So, you couldn't have her come back because it wouldn't make sense. Like there would be no way that you can put her in a movie after that because she dies. That's one. And she really didn't have an origin story. She didn't have no story because it was like the moment she came to Earth, she was captured. And she was been captured until the Flash went there to rescue her. Right? So that's why you couldn't have her come back. You had to bring in the new Supergirl, which was Millie Alcott. You had to bring Millie Alcott. So this is the new Supergirl, the Earth that we know Supergirl, right? And this is what she's gonna do. This is who she's gonna be. She's gonna be new Supergirl. There's nothing we can do about it. We just gotta eat that. Like, and I'm not sure if I agree with James Gunn take on how he's doing Supergirl. I think the way she looks is cool. Like the way she looks. All right, let me see. The This is the image. Let me see if I can find a better one. Hold on. Wait, let me see if I can get a better image of her. All right. Well, first off, let's look at the. All right. This is how she looked in the Superman movie, and she pretty much looks like this in the new movie too. She has the jacket, the trench coat, you know what I'm saying, and she has the suit. And this is the poster that we saw. You know what I'm saying? I think she looks cool. I think she looks okay. Like I don't see my the only thing I don't like is like the glasses. You could take the glasses off. You know what I'm saying? But the outfit looks cool. I think she looks cool. Compare her to oh Amazon. Compare her to Melissa, right? Melissa looks more of a grown, mature, older version to Supergirl. And if you look at her, where is it? Melissa. If you look at Melissa and then you look at Millie, they don't look too different. Just you could just tell there's an age difference. And like I said, I think she looks cool. I think she looks okay. I think Millie looks okay. Okay? The problem is how James Gunn is presenting these trailers and how he's presenting these characters. Nobody wants their heroes to be drunk, to be getting beat up by regular thugs, to be struggling. You're not showing people anything to really sell them on the movie. You're making them, it's kind of like you're just putting out something that people see and they're like, what is this? But there's no real representation. There's no flair. That you just it's really just blah. You know what I'm saying? So even though you have a cool looking poster and the character looks cool, the movie doesn't look like there's anything really interesting, except there was one thing that people did like, and that was James Gunn. The one thing that people did like was Jason Momoa being Lobo, right? Jason Momoa as Lobo was probably the perfect casting. Let me see. Like, that's the picture of him. A lot of people like that. A lot of people think that Jason Momoa is going to be a great Lobo. He's going to do a good job. So, you know, that's like the one thing that I think people are interested in seeing is how he's going to portray this character. So, aside from that, we don't really have anything to interest us on this movie. There's really nothing to say, okay, I'm going to see this movie the first day it comes out. Granted, this was the first teaser. We might get another trailer. It might be a little better. It might change our minds. Who knows? But from what we've seen so far, this shit didn't do it for us. And again, you got to ask yourself, is it the character? Is it the director? We can't say it's the character because we haven't seen the movie yet. We haven't seen Millie Alcott act as Supergirl except for that little couple of, maybe like 5-minute intro that she had in the end of the last Superman movie, which wasn't really enough to really tell you if you're going to enjoy her as Supergirl or not. So, she came in there, she said a little one and twos and then she left. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't enough to really sell you on this character or sell you on the actor for this character. So I guess what I'm leading towards is, do we really enjoy James Gunn version on on Superman and Supergirl? Or was the other versions a little bit better? You know what I'm saying? Like, did you enjoy Zack Snyder's Superman? Did you enjoy Sasha Cale as Supergirl? And or did you enjoy Melissa Benoist? Right? Like, I honestly feel like she was the best Supergirl. Like, I wish we could have had her as Supergirl. If they would have took the actor from the CW show and brought it into the movies, that would have been perfect. Hands down. Like, that would have been perfect. Because she was the perfect Supergirl. The perfect version of what you imagine Supergirl to be like. Compared to, like I said, we haven't seen Millie Alcott, but the way they're directing her and the way they're guiding her and the things that they're having her do thus far, it just looks like a bad take on the character. It looks like something that people just aren't going to be sold on. So, I don't know. We got to wait and see what we get. We might get another trailer. They might show us something different. We might see something more interesting. I don't miss Henry Cavill as Superman, but I do miss the way Zack Snyder did the movie for Man of Steel. Because I did enjoy Man of Steel as far as the way the movie was. It was an origin story. It started off good. It ended with the death of Zod, which was good. It was like the remake from the old Superman movies. You know what I'm saying? The Christopher Reeve joint. Because there was a movie with Christopher Reeves that he fought Zod and all that stuff. So it was like a remake for that. And I did enjoy that movie. I felt like it was a good movie. I just didn't like how Henry Cavill acted as Superman. But if we had this Superman, David Karen Sweat, right? If we had him, Corin Sweat or whatever his name is. Let me make sure I'm saying his name right, because David David Corin Sweat. Okay. If we had David Corin Sweat as Superman in the Snyderverse, I feel like it would have been a better movie compared to having Henry Cavill. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, basically what I'm saying is I don't think they should have did a director swap. I think they should have did an actor swap. Keep the director, just change the actor. You know what I'm saying? Or direct Henry better. Give him more to do, give him more personality. And if he's not that guy, then change the actor. Because James Gunn, the last Superman movie James Gunn did, I just feel like it just didn't, it felt off. Like, even though I know he's being more accurate in the lore of Superman, something still feels like it's missing. It feels like there's a piece of Superman that's just not there, that he cannot capture the right way. And now that he's doing Supergirl, it almost feels like it's even being, worse. Like, it's even being torn down even more. So I don't think fans are going to be happy with what they're getting unless something changes, whether it be the actor, the director, you know, but from what we're seeing thus far, it just looks like there's a lot that's missing from the DC universe. And if they don't do something, it's just going to be, it's going to be a letdown, and with Marvel on the horizon, you know, and they're bringing their franchise back, they're bringing Doomsday into the fray. Marvel is going to be ahead of DC once again if something doesn't change. So I don't know. I guess we just gotta wait and see what they eventually show us. If we're gonna see any more trailers for Supergirl. Let me know what you guys think. Did you enjoy Zack Snyder's Superman's movie, like Man of Steel? Did you enjoy that, or did you enjoy James Gunn more? Do you feel like Supergirl is gonna be a good movie, or do you feel like it's gonna be a letdown? Did you like Sasha Cale as Superman? Did you like the CW version, Melissa Benoist as Supergirl? I mean, Sasha Cale as Supergirl and Melissa Benoist. Which Supergirl did you enjoy the most? Like, let me know, because honestly, I enjoyed Sasha Cale as Supergirl, but let's be honest, like you can't beat that. You can't. Like, she was the number one draft pick as Supergirl, and I just feel like, as far as the way she did it, the way she acted, the energy she brought to the character, everything was perfect with her. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and once again, you guys, please like and comment on this video, as it'll help grow the channel. Remember, everybody, it isn't cinema if it ain't absolute cinema. Till next time, everyone, thank you for watching. Take care.